Okay, before anyone comments on my critiques saying that I'm bullying and stuff like that, I would recommend you read the disclaimer. I'll keep it up for a few seconds just for you guys to read it all. Got it now? Good. Now let's go on to the critique now. I need to branch out my critiques. So far, I only have one non-package fandom video for my critique series, and that video is just kind of bad by my standards, really. I need more variety in my topics, but what to choose? Maybe do a part 2 to my package fandom video, talking about users I missed, and updates about existing users, along with teasing a breakdown of that one Carno movie. Nah, that doesn't achieve my objective at all. Maybe reading comments from people who react way too hard to a troll. Maybe if I could scrounge up enough material, but there's a reason I don't really do that many comment reading videos. It's kind of hard to find. Okay, well, what's next? Talk about odd and downright bizarre wikias. That would be a cool idea. Nah, I need to narrow down my choices for that one, which I can't be bothered to do right now. DA seems like a good place for bizarre stuff as well, but that has the same problems as Wikia, because I just can't be bothered to narrow stuff down right now. But well, I have one more idea left. Oh. I guess we are going to be doing a little bit of trolling in this episode, and he has games as well. So that's a double whammy of objectives. Really amazing, Spacey. Really amazing. Anyway, let's get on to the show. Sup guys, Spacey here, and today I want to start moving to other subjects, doing something different for once, and covering something that interests me. So I decided to do a critique on a user I've known for a while, that being Trollsome. Trollsome is someone who primarily is on YouTube and Scratch, yeah, that platform, and he has his own series with his own games as well. Pretty impressive, eh? Well, that's where things start to fall apart. It's my job today to critique him, since all of the other rants, or at least all the good ones, of him are gone. So let's just get going already before this drags out for a while. So first, we have his YouTube, and based on what we see here, it's unimpressive. A lot of the videos are just garbage, like Pac-Man in real life.
Yeah, that's right. Let's eat him. Yeah! No, wait! Ah!
Yeah, a real masterpiece. We also have the likes of getting first place again in Arsenal Archive and getting a Kart Pro in Mario Kart Tour, really showing how much of an epic gamer he is. Okay, in all seriousness though, I don't really have a problem with people posting gameplay and stuff, but knowing he also mixes his animations in there, which I'll talk about in a little bit, I guarantee I feel like these will fit better on a second channel and probably upload more animations to YouTube. That's just my suggestion though, and you don't have to listen to it. Speaking of animations, which I've talked about a few seconds ago at this point, we get to see, well, his animations. And these animations I feel are really much his bread and butter. Okay, maybe the animation is more the butter and the bread just literally everything else, but you kind of get the point here. So, how do I feel about his animations and his overall art? Well, if you want my opinions in short terms, let me just say it's boring as hell. But let me explain this through, or else this video is gonna end quicker than you can say, "Le epic trolled." So yeah, let's just get the more detailed explanations, since this is more of a critique series than a real proper smackdown, so let's just get to more constructive points. First off, his style. And the biggest problem I have with it is the same one with people like MJetty. There is no style. Yeah, sure, it's competently made, but anyone can use shape tools and basically any art program, and they could get the same results done in the same time Trollsome could. Hell, his style feels like a huge knockoff of Alex Parr's style, which was kind of a knockoff of Caustoon's style, which in a way is kind of like Ankroot's style. But at the very least, Cause and Alex Parr add somewhat unique elements to their artwork, even if they're still not good at all. With Trollsome, it's basically Ankroot's lore, but just Trollsome and his random adventures. Yay. But that's sidetracking to the lore, and let's just get back to the Ankroot's comparison for a second, because I just feel like Trollsome is sort of a counterpart to Ankroot's in a way, not just with the lore, but also with how I feel like is account is structured, basically just being random adventures with OCs. But comparing Ankroot's art to Trollsome's, it's night and fucking day. Even in Ant's earlier work, you can clearly see that he was better. Not only because of the better OC designs, which we'll talk about more about Trollsome's lore and OCs, don't worry, but Ankroot's actually freehands his drawings to give his drawings actual personality, style, and life. Which, if Trollsome ever hopes to reach the same levels as Ant, he actually has to try to draw stuff like curves or even fingers. Ooh, scary, right? Yeah, and that's everything I have to really say about his style. Really, I just hope he looks at basic art tutorials in order to learn elements outside of shape tools, because he desperately needs it, like, really desperately needs it. Now, on to the OCs, and if you want a lowdown of his characters, just think TV tropes, but if it were an OC universe. Basically, if I need to spell that shit out to you, he has one-note stereotypes for characters. Let's look at a few examples. Trollsome is a hero. That is all. Polly is a basic-ass pre-2016 female stereotype, and Trollsome's sex slave, despite being 12. Really, all the female characters are sex slaves now that I really think about it. That is all. David is just Science Father Guy who got last place at the science fair. That is all. Furball is just a pet failure. That is all. And I can basically repeat this for almost all of his characters in the cast, since they're nothing but very generic characters. Sure, the wiki has a bit on them, but honestly, in-game, a lot of them have the most generic dialogue possible, and don't do anything, thus making them extremely two-dimensional, and nothing more than cardboard cutouts. If Trollsome ever hopes to improve those elements, he has to actually make characters do things and say things that make them distinct. Like, if you want a basic but good example of characters and their dynamics, go check out Incorrect Quotes Generator neocities.org, as they have a great dialogue examples and show off dynamics between characters rather well. That, and they can also get the characters' conflict as well, but I don't know if Trollsome would really add conflict into his stories. Just doesn't seem like a thing he would do. That is all I really have to say on that end, since there isn't much to talk about, but now let's get into how he makes his magnum opuses, aka his Scratch account. Yay. Can't wait to see that hellhole again. Yeah, we are heading to this place. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Scratch is an educational coding site meant to teach kids coding. Of course, over the years, it has gone its fair share of Da Vinci's wanting to make the next big Xbox Series X game, and or the user group people. Yes, the same people who inhabit DeviantArt and YouTube, with their amazing pictures and videos, decided to go to this site, likely for the same reason they went to GoAnimate originally, as it was likely introduced to them in school. That is like how I got introduced to the site a few years ago, and I even made a few games there, so that's sort of interesting. But back on topic, these kinds of people have clearly made their mark on the site. Like, it's so obvious, it's kind of like a dog pissing on the rug, just to make some sort of comparison. This even includes Trollsome, who has his own sub-community in this little hellhole. Yeah, a Trollsome sub-community. That honestly kind of proves how low this platform can go, considering, yeah, I can't think of anything deeply bad than a Trollsome sub-community. In fact, in general, I'm shocked he even stayed on the platform, because some people like his counterparts, like Ankroot's and Josh, didn't decide to make it a main platform, or completely abandon it entirely because they realized, hey, this baby site is not for me, and this baby site is only used for baby-like games, and we shouldn't put stuff like that on Scratch. But Trollsome, I guess, has to put his masterpieces somewhere, so I guess Scratch is the place to go. But yeah, now let's get on to what his page is like, and how his games hold up, because oh boy, there's going to be quite a bit to talk about there. Now, when we go onto Trollsome's account, oh no. Well, outside of Scratch's quite honestly shitty UI, we say that their account has a ton, and I do mean a ton of animations. A lot of them look like they'd be fetish material for him. Like, seriously, this stuff is DeviantArt tier level fetishes. Ugh. And finding the goddamn games within all these animations is just a nightmare, to be honest. It took me minutes to find the Trollsome games in these goddamn folders. Like, at least you could put your studio of Trollsome games up on, like, the profile so they'll be easy to access, but I guess in Trollsome land, I guess that's not something you could do. Really disappointed in that, because I would rather not go through the nightmare of that UI ever again. Like, seriously, I cannot emphasize how shitty Scratch's UI is. It's clearly kind of a nightmare to go through. But anyway, back into the games, I'll decide to review 3 Trollsome games. Trollsome 6, Remastered, and 7, which is the latest installment as of writing this video, giving my thoughts on all 3, and explain why Trollsome is a bad game designer, and why Scratch sucks for actually making games. So let's go now with our first game, Trollsome 6. So, Trollsome 6. This game is going to be the basis of my problems with the series in general, but I'll also go over specific problems I have with it as well. Starting with the fact that these controls in the game suck ass. Now, what would you expect to control a game like this? With the arrow keys in Z, X, and Z, or some variation of that setup? Well, Trollsome decided instead of doing that design choice to use the WASD format, which is good when paired with a mouse for FPS games. But since these games don't use the mouse at all, or hell, aren't even FPSs, like, man, imagine FPS on Scratch, that would be fucking hilarious. It ends up being an odd design choice. But what ultimately proves Trollsome has troll hands is where the fire and dash buttons are placed. They are placed at the E and Q keys, respectively. Why? I know autistic people who have quirks with how they do stuff sometimes, including using a keyboard, but no other human controls games like this, as it is extremely cramp-inducing and will likely give people carpal tunnel syndrome. Seriously, there is a reason why those buttons and the controllers are separated from the D-pad. But speaking of those abilities, how do they fare with the gameplay? Well, for the shooting, it's fine for the most part, but the dash is seriously too OP, since you can make yourself forever invincible to things and tear this game fucking apart. Not like it was that stable anyway, but the dash could 100% break this game into 2. May I suggest adding cooldown to the dash? Seriously, these levels are very boring and have zero interesting challenges to them. See, unlike most platformers, Trollsome is a screen-by-screen platformer, meaning there is no scrolling. So while he is very limited in terms of challenges, they could still be done. But instead of introducing a mechanic, elaborating on it over time, and embracing it and putting it together for one final challenge, Trollsome instead decides to slap platforms everywhere and hopes people find it fun, which it isn't. This is why all the levels are samey as well. The bosses also have the same problem as the levels. They are broken, not fun, and boring as all hell. There is also an extra problem of no telegraphing with the attacks, which means that you will get confused as to how to dodge these bosses at first. Not a good game design at all. That is all I'm going to say on Trollsome 6, as I already mentioned how bad Trollsome's characters are, and there isn't any point to the game that stuck out to me specifically. They're all really bland and unoriginal. But let's see how he ups the ante in Trollsome 7, because this is his newest, biggest work yet, and I want to see how it expands the formula. Trollsome 7 by compare. Oh wait, this is Trollsome 5 footage. Whoopsie daisy. Whoop. Anyway, Trollsome 7 by comparison to Trollsome 6 is the same game as before. Sure, there are some differences, which honestly is probably more than I could say for most of the other Trollsome games, but there isn't really anything to make me prefer installments or truly stand out in front of the other Trollsome games. And frankly, I think Trollsome 7 might have been a missed opportunity to expand the formula some more, you know? Like, for example, giving Trollsome extra weapons. Oh, wait. Yeah, even when Trollsome tries to clone the Mega Man formula with this series, he doesn't even get it fully right. Not even with the extra playable characters in the game, which, honestly, they are just power-ups from Mega Man and they're made to their own characters to play as, which doesn't sound like the worst idea, but the fact they only have one weapon, like Trollsome, makes it barely a difference. Let's compare that to the Mega Man series. Let's focus on 1 through 6 and 9 through 10, since they're all 8-bit installments. Now, at very first glance, they look to all be the same game, just with different stages. But when you look closer, you can see that every installment usually adds to the formula in some way, shape, or form. Usually a new ability, a new gimmick, or quality of life changes to improve the experience. That is how you change the formula. Hell, if you want to go further with that example, we can look at the Turrican games, which usually change up the gameplay a decent amount between installments. Like, the quality difference between Turrican 1 and 2 is pretty goddamn massive. Like, it's really, really big. And if you play both of them, you should definitely know what I should be talking about. Same goes for the other installments in the Turrican series as well, like Mega Turrican, Super Turrican, and Super Turrican 2. Of course, many other games have lots of other examples of how you can innovate the gameplay while still keeping the core formula the same. I specifically picked Mega Man and Turrican because both series probably play the closest to the Trollsome games, both in core design and several mechanics they share. But instead of following those two examples I've shown earlier, Trollsome instead decides to basically make the exact same game again and again and again. Sure, he did add the dash into Trollsome's moveset, which was very overpowered, and he manages to add Power Stones to Trollsome 7, but other than that, they're basically the exact same games. Seriously, you can shuffle a lot of the levels between games and there would barely be a difference between them. That's how bad it is. In fact, the best way I can honestly describe it is a bunch of expansion packs to a base game that were just separated into their own installments. That is truly a horrible design choice. But anyway, one more thing before I go, because I can't find any other way to put this, but Trollsome has also decided to rip off Sonic with the Power Stones, which I mentioned earlier. Yeah, they're not hinted at all in the game, and basically require you to just go into corners all the time, because Trollsome couldn't be bothered to put exploration in his video game. What a silly mechanic. That would never work in a Mega Man-like game. Oh, you should hopefully be the only one I'm referring to at this point. Outside of finding them though, they don't really serve much of a purpose outside turning Trollsome into some super duper duper moment, and it just plays like a crappy version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles' final boss. Like, it's almost one for one. But I honestly just kind of prefer the bad ending, to be honest. It's so cheesy and dumb, I can't help but laugh at it every single time, because it's like, oh boo-hoo, Trollsome's dead, we're all gonna cry. And it's honestly so funny how Trollsome's trying to make a dramatic moment in the game, and it fails so hard. In fact, I would just recommend you skip to the Dr. White stage, which, yeah, very original, wily, white, ha ha, he he, hoo hoo, and just like go to the final boss and see the bad ending, because that's the only real value I could see in the Trollsome games. But anyway, let's now end this Trollsome trilogy with the final game we have to talk about right now. Oh, Trollsome Remastered. Well, before I get into this game, I better say that the reason I tackled this one last instead of Trollsome 7 was because I do think that this will ultimately prove how Trollsome hasn't really improved as a game designer. Like, if you can't even fix what you originally made, then you basically failed as a game designer, and this perfectly shows that. Now, for differences between the original and the remaster, Well, there's basically two that I have to mention. First is the fact that the stages are longer, which you might think would make for a pretty good opportunity to introduce mechanics, but Trollsome doesn't utilize that at all. Like, he doesn't even use the bare minimum of it. The only exception I can think of with this is the big spiky level, where there is a huge tree set piece, which is cool in my opinion. And I'll give him a little bit of an inch for that. And then I'll immediately remove it and take away his measuring privileges with this horrible knife section, which is a shittily designed mechanic that just doesn't work well and is very poorly explained. Another similar moment does happen in Trollsome 7 as well, with some moving platforms which just don't work because Trollsome is just constantly bouncing on the platforms, thus making it hard to jump, but this is even worse, knowing that the knives can damage you, and in order to beat it, you have to essentially damage boost, which you should never have to damage boost in order to beat a game, unless it's something like a very hard challenge, which Trollsome doesn't offer really much challenges. It just ends up being an unfair part of the game for the sake of difficulty, which is a horrible sacrifice to make. And that's basically every single gameplay change in the game. But I did say that there was a second difference in the game. And what is that? Well, it's voice acting. Yes, voice acting. If Trollsome can't even get his game right, what would make him think that he would have voice acting in his game? But Trollsome tries anyway, with these very great voice actors that give Dingo Pictures a run for their money with their top tier voice acting at display here.
Now hurry up and get going! The fate of Roseville City depends on you!
I'm on it, Professor. Wow, Vetrix, you changed a lot, have you? Wait a minute, are you working with Dr. White now?
Have you lost your mind? After I was introduced in your old account, you just removed me years later. As revenge, I will kill you and take your place forever. These lasers hurt. I'm just a ball with spikes after all, but don't be messing with us again.
Looks like I'm the one stopping you from attacking the city. I'm not done with you yet! Because I will self-destruct my laboratory by pressing this button! Oh no! The laboratory will self-destruct in 10 seconds! I gotta hurry before the time runs out!
Yeah, looks like the voice direction, or getting people who can actually do competent voice acting, went out the window for this one. This is way worse than even Mega Man's 8's pitiful showing.
When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
But oh hey, Cool Speedy Josh is in the credits. I could see what his thoughts are on voice acting this. Hey Josh, what do you think of your experiences in voice acting for Trollsome Remastered?
So, looking back on my voice talents for Trollsome Remastered, it's not really that great because Professor Hog's voice sounds really bad looking back. And if I remember correctly, Trollsome also wanted me to voice Dr. White, but there was a problem. He asked me a few days after I had stomach surgery, which was a really bad time for me because I wasn't able to walk or even do good voice impressions. Anyways, that's all I gotta say.
Wow. Now that was something. Really insightful though, and truly shows Trollsome's real behavior with his voice actors. No wonder Trollsome 7 didn't have voice acting. But with the talk about the voice actors over with, I have nothing else to really say about Trollsome's video games. Sure, I could discuss a few more criticisms here or there, but I do feel like they're better suited for the conclusion segment of this video. So, let's just get to that before this drags on any further. So, Trollsome. He's one hell of a mess when it comes to content. With pure cringe content that fails to fully grasp the mediums used, and in terms makes very bad or offensively bland stuff that's bound to eventually turn people away from you. If you lack criticism taking skills, take it now, since it will really help you improve, and will help you get out of some sticky situations in the future, alongside helping you take this stuff more professionally, because professionals take criticism as well, not just the newbies. With that out of the way, let's finally get to the advice segment of this video and get my concise conclusions out there. For video advice, I say putting more animations on your YouTube is also a good idea. For art, I would ditch the shape tools entirely and start freehanding things. People like Josh did the same thing, and while the results aren't the best, it still shows improvement, and there is a lot of room to grow when you're not limited by shapes. And you should really look how to do anatomy, as that will also really help you when you're doing freehand. As for the characters, look at videos about character types and build off interesting dynamics. I also see giving characters their own spice when it comes to dialogue, like Trollsome could sound more confident and Polly could be more carefree, could also help. Also, if you really want to make fetish art, just keep it to yourself. Posting that shit on Scratch is gonna make people very, very uncomfortable, like what I feel like at the moment. Ugh. Finally, for the games, you should study game design by watching videos on the subject, since that would be useful to help structure games like the Trollsome series and any future projects you're gonna make. I know this is also gonna hurt as well, but stop using Scratch. Sure, very simple games like Bit by Alex Parr would work well on Scratch, but Trollsome is a series too ambitious for Scratch. I'm suggesting moving the series to Unity or another engine like that, since it would allow for you for way more breathing room. Hell, take some classes on the subject, and if you're good at coding, you can make way better stuff than what Scratch could ever do. Seriously, it's way more rewarding than using a dumb baby site to make your games. And that's all for advice here. So, Trollsome, I seriously hope you take the advice and don't rely on the video being taken down soon, because this video is going to stay up for a long ass time, so don't get your hopes up and actually listen to the advice. I think if you listen to it, you'll improve a lot. And if you don't, well, that's another person to laugh at. But anyway, I'll see you soon, Trollsome. If you ever encounter me again, well, see ya. That is all I have to say on Trollsome overall. While I did want this episode to go simple, it turned out to have some complex moments. So next time, I hope to have a smaller critique soon to wind down. But knowing me, I'll make a 5,000 word essay instead. Well, no matter what happens, I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time. Bye!